And welcome everyone. Really glad to see you all here today. Excited to have another one of our artist salons and grateful for each of the artists who are here. I'm Christina DeRose. I'm the director of Kresge Arts in Detroit. And Kresge Arts in Detroit is of course funded by the Kresge Foundation and administered by the College for Creative Studies. So today we're actually at the last installment of the Artist Salon series for this year, which is focusing on the 2020 Kresge Artist Fellows. And if you haven't already, we're inviting everyone to drop a note in the chat that lets us know your name of folks who are joining us today, as well as your pronouns and where you're joining us from. It's a wonderful opportunity today to get to know each of the artists who've received the 2020 Kresge Artist Fellowship Awards today that are participating, but also to connect folks one to another for those of you who are attending here today. So please don't be shy in the chat and chime in at any time. We'll also be inviting you to submit questions for the artists through the chat as well. I want to acknowledge before we get started a couple folks who are supporting for today. We've got Andrea Ulipoti and Layla Bygorich, as well as folks helping us with interpretation. That's Kim and Carly, who are both here. So you'll see them helping out as well, which we very much appreciate. And let's see here if there's anything else I need to share at the beginning. Oh, wanted to make sure to note that if you have any tech support problems along the way, you can reach out again through the chat to tech support, and Layla and Andrea will take care of things for you. Also, sometimes if you have a slower internet connection, you might notice that the video that we play may be a little bit glitchy for you. For that reason, the video link will be posted in the chat. So if it works for you, you're welcome to step out of the Zoom session, watch the video at the same time that we're screening it here, and then come back and join, and we'll let you right back in to the Zoom session afterwards. So if you're having any problems just because of your connection, go ahead and do that, because we want to make sure that you're able to see those videos. So as well, we will, before we move into the actual Q&A, or before we move into the session, I'm gonna give a quick overview of what's going to be happening today. We will have a conversation with each artist, but we'll do it in a sequential order. So first, we'll be speaking with Ajara. Ajara will give a brief intro to give some context to the video about the work that she's presenting today. And then afterwards, there'll be a moderated Q&A. We'll invite you to give us your questions in the chat at any point during the video or afterwards. After that, we will get to learn more about Karilú's practice. Then we'll have a 5-minute bio break, and then we'll move into learning about Michael's practice and then Debra's practice. And that will be it for today. So looking forward to getting started. And with that, I'm going to hand it to Ajara.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you all who are joining us this afternoon. My name is Ajara Alghali, and I am a dancer in the West African tradition. And so what I mean by like West African tradition, I mean like in the classical form of dance presenting out of West Africa. So not more or less what you see in pop videos, but all of that comes from the traditional way and the communal practice of dance and drum out of West Africa. So what you'll be seeing today is more about my journey through dance, and then most importantly, where I see myself in dance at this present time and how I'm going to be moving forward. So let's take it. Thank you for joining us for the Kresge Art in Detroit Salon Talk. My name is Ajara Alghali, and I am a dancer in the traditional West African discipline. So my journey through dance has been about 20 years. I've evolved and transitioned along the way to performing and teaching
to now really teaching through the art of like through scholarship, I should say. Um, I found myself being on this like like trajectory in which I'm starting to want to evolve my practice to become more than just dance in the technical term, but how we use dance and movement to break status quo traditions of what dance and movement really is, and whose bodies are able to like possess those skills. You know, we grew up learning that ballet was the epitome of dance and movement in those different types of um, ballet in like, you know, Russian, and you know, like even when we were children, you know, going to a ballet class was your actual classical dance enrichment. But what does it mean to ground dance in a traditional African realm, and how we could be talking about African dance as classical, just like we talk about ballet. And so through this journey, through this like query of like dance and myself and how I'm thinking about dance more differently, I co-founded an organization called Taymate Institute for Black Dance and Culture, in which my partner and I been asking ourselves those questions. You know, we've presented at the Collegium of African Diasporic Dance at Duke University. And then also back in November, we held a 3-week conference where we talked about that, and we showcased dancers and dance companies that are really pushing the envelope of what it means to represent black people in black spaces in dance, and how that when we talk about African dance or dance of the diaspora, that we are centering black people, and then we are not trying to like compare ourselves to ballet or modern, because this is a separate discipline, this is a separate structure. And then all honesty, we it's ingrained in us to be able to connect through these movements, and these movements mean so much, just in terms of what the dances mean, and you know how, what they represent. And that allows you to think and also move more clearly, and also more very like with purpose, to move with purpose, because you know what these dances represent. And I think that is important, is especially when we are passing this information on to future generations. And so it's become more than just dance in the technical realm for me. It's really about how do we push this movement? How do we begin to center black and indigenous traditional movement, music, and how we begin to marry that into our urban landscape or even our rural landscapes. Um, Black and indigenous people have been building their cities and surroundings for a millennia, and we know that in Africa it was like traditionally we built space, communal space around drum and dance. You know, that's how, you know, you came together in community. And what does that look like for us in 2021 to be able to continue to use those same tools of drum and dance and our spiritual connection to our land to be able to figure out how we build space and move through space. And so, me also being formally trained as an urban planner, I've been able to ask myself those questions. I've been able to challenge myself with the help of amazing mentors that are really asking those questions about, like, well, how do you use dance? And what does it mean to decolonize our tools, such as urban planning or even anthropology, when we begin to look at more indigenous practices that we've been using for generations and generations. And for the past 4 years, I've started a planning firm, a consultancy firm called Cultivated, because I want to focus and use culture as a focal point, a central point in how we are beginning to look at sustainable cities, to sustainable spaces, and how we begin to redesign and reevaluate, but also being able to build those spaces for people of color, Black and Indigenous, and others, and not through the Western eye of this is what space is supposed to look like, and this is how we're supposed to be in space. And so like this came about because I was just really thinking about, like, wow, like I'm thinking about African dance and African tradition, but these spaces have been colonized. And so how can I be thinking about this dance and culture without really thinking about the decolonization of these spaces and what it will take to decolonize these spaces? And that is how I'm being able to use dance as a practice, but also using dance as an educational tool to really dismantle our very like patriarchal and white supremacist way of when we're thinking about academia and dance and scholarship, etc. So I hope all of you all, join me in this like quest and this passion to really figure out like new ways where we can educate ourselves through dance, but also new ways that we can really look at how we view ourselves, how we view the way we bring culture into our present spaces, and how do we use that to move forward.
I'm so excited for this conversation and really appreciating all that you shared. Again, I know other people are bound to have lots of questions as well, so please post them in the chat. We'll be pulling from those. I'm really intrigued by your background in urban planning and in dance, and want to, for me, one of the things that I notice when artists have multiple training that is often seen as siloed or separate, that a lot of times it's there's not always the invitation to bring both of those parts of yourself into a conversation, or one part or the other might be invited, but it's like, oh, well, in this space you're wearing this hat. In an urban planning setting, people might think, oh, well, dance isn't relevant, or vice versa. And to me, think that the creativity, the aspect dance is important in every conversation. Other people in the room may not have a dance background, but the background that you bring to urban planning, for example, is going to change a lot of the thoughts about what you're sharing in terms of cultural practices in specific places, also as well as accessibility, as well as how do we move through spaces. So with that, I'm curious if you would share some more about specifically the landscape in Detroit. And if there are a couple suggestions that you have that are like, oh, if I had the ability to change some things today, here are some things that that you would change in order to have Detroit have an even more welcoming and full space for Indigenous and Black dance and African dance to be placed in that context in a way that really allows it to both thrive and for people to really receive the work the way that you imagine it could be in its fullest?
Oh, wow. Thank you. This has always been a passion of mine. I come from a bicultural household. My dad is from Sierra Leone, West Africa. My mom was born and raised here in Detroit. So for me, my journey through, like, even thinking about myself as an urban planner, even though I am like technically trained, formally trained as an urban planner, it was difficult for me to come to this space that I am right now, because I wasn't thinking about urban planning as like transportation or, like economic development in terms of like football fields and, like very in that realm. I was thinking about it more of like on a community base. And so like I had a lot of difficulty in grad school. And so I really came to this place where I said, you know what, this is just who I am. And in order for me to really do good work, I have to embrace and really just step out into this world being authentically me, and then coming into it in the sense of like how much I love my culture and love other culture as well, and making sure that that is grounded in everything that I do. And so when I come into like work in Detroit, I make sure that culture for myself or whomever else that I'm interacting with is celebrated and is grounded. And so like things that I, think about when we talk about, Detroit and, what does that mean for planning? I feel that we first have to always center like who came before, and how we see ourselves moving forward. And it's not enough for even individuals that are in my discipline of urban planning or whomever to make places and make spaces without the input. I'm not even thinking about input on that level. I'm thinking about real informative conversations and discussions, and going in and documenting the things that that existed there historically. So to have like new developments and parks or whatever, not paying that homage to, like this was a place where our grandmother and grandfather and etc., even like beyond that, like us not paying attention to like, what even Native and Indigenous Americans, how they use the space. I think that I feel like it's problematic, but it also creates a space to where people feel that they're not connected to. And if you're not connected to a space, then you don't invest in it. You don't value it. And that's where I'm coming from in terms of Detroit. But I also feel like a marriage between like the work that I'm doing here in Detroit and what I see when I visit my paternal country, Sierra Leone. I'm a dual citizen of Sierra Leone in America, but I see the same characteristics in terms of how cultural practices, I feel like, are not elevated enough to where like we can look back to see, like what did we do generations ago to combat flooding, or what are some of the ways that we did to cultivate land, etc. And then so I also see that disconnect being a detriment to how we go about our future planning, and how that if we don't look back, then you are bound to make the same mistakes, but also that creates like a lack of sustainability for the future. So, I mean, I'm thinking about it in like those, terms. So I know I was long-winded, but.
No, it makes a ton of sense. And I have a bunch of follow-up questions, and I'm going to defer to one that we've got in the chat, which is, can you talk more about how to ground your practice in terms of, are you referring to the practice of diving into history and listening to the community as you were just speaking about, or something else? And do you have recommendations for others about how to ground one's practice in the ways that you're referring to?
I think the recommendations that I would use and what I'm using today is going more into like an ethnographic type of like documentation, and where like you, before you do anything, like you must be or try to be part of what it is that you are doing, whether if it's in the community, like even for me, in terms of how I like manage my projects, before I even do anything in terms of like the beginning stages of a project, I'm there at least like 6 months trying to like observe without even putting myself into the narrative, like writing down, researching. So I take a more like anthropology approach to how I do work. And I definitely think that, in the like conversation that's been going on nationally, just in terms of I saw something with Pete Buttigieg, and he was talking about like how transportation and our roads really created division and community, and it actually spurred the disinvestment of major cities. And when we look at like now I-75 that went directly through, just prominent neighborhood in the city of Detroit, like that was urban planning, that was planning. So how do we move that envelope to say, we need to be looking at spaces totally separate? We need to be looking at neighborhoods separate. Everything is not, it's not like a one size fits all. And I think like until we really figure out that like it is not one size fits all, like you really have to go into each space with the new lens and like a new way that you are engaging, we'll continue to be making foolish mistakes. I hope that answered the question.
It does. And what comes to mind for me is that whether in what you're sharing about urban planning, as well as what we heard as far as your approach to dance, the ideas of site specificity and how work is connected to a place. And often that is in the, art practice considered sometimes a short-term project, like, oh, how is this work going to react to this place for this period of time? If I'm asked to present something in a place in 6 months or something, but the depth of what you're speaking to come into a place from that anthropology perspective, to really get to know something, as well as just the history of tradition, to be of a tradition, of a lineage of dance, and be able then to push against the power structures, the structures of white supremacy that have been built in to a Eurocentric lens, or to the language itself that says this is classical and something else isn't, that all of those structures pushing against to redefine from the roots of it and go through that decolonizing practice, but recognizing both the space as well as the art practice and the conversation between those. And I'm curious if you would have recommendations that you would say, in addition to your work, here's who people should be looking to or watching. Here are artists that perhaps you look to and say, this is where I'm getting inspiration. These are folks who I am aware that they have laid groundwork before. so that folks who are interested in learning more can say, great, let me go take a look also and see who are the artists that are inspiring you today or that inspired you to get to where you are now.
Oh, wow. Like, I would definitely say, I have dance mentors, dance moms that inspired me, that, brought me along and, said, oh, you're doing this move wrong, or why, and so I have my dance moms here in Detroit, Credia Hunter, Sabira Karamoko, but, as far as even other dancers, I love what Collective Sweat is doing here in Detroit in terms of like, which the name speaks for itself, but just like, what does it mean to like be in, in a space and like honing in on your own practice and discipline. You know what I mean? It's like when you are creating your own work and allowing your body to move in a way that it is inherent to you, but also in a way that you could be developing other types of practices. And then even as far as traditional African dance, it's so many teachers that I have come from, EDCs out of Chicago, Marie Boswells from New York, Asan Kante from Washington, DC. I think that because I was not born into the language of the discipline of traditional African dance, and so I came in it at a later date. But those teachers have been, I'm seeing it, and I'm seeing like the wealth of knowledge that they have, and being able to bring what they were taught and what they learned from the continent, and providing like a wider population. I think that speaks to the passion that I have, like being disconnected from a discipline, not out of the choice of my own, but being, I just didn't grow up with it. And I think like a lot of African Americans can, not a lot, we all can, attest to the fact like, wow, this is something that I haven't been exposed to. And so like being able to, think about, dance and, like coming to terms with the fact that, we were disconnected from it, like it was taken from us, but then how do we embrace, all of these, teachers that are coming to say, hey, I can provide you a little piece of what you may be missing or want to know more of. And then also like when I think about, planning, I truly think about, the work that the Sierra Leone urban research, what they're doing. And I guess I'm just speaking because like I love Sierra Leone, but they're really talking about a sense of like, how do we get our informal workers in the discussion around urban planning, like all of the traders that trade on the street, where is a place where they could come in and be able to have input in like how a road is designed or etc. And so like these, like again, like I'm coming at it at like a very like cultural grounding, but I feel that we need to be able to uplift our culture, whatever cultural background you come from, to be able to then like inform the future. So like I'm thinking about dance, and I'm also thinking about definitely like planning principles that I see here, but also on the continent as well.
Makes sense, and circles back to your earlier comment about including folks in planning processes and in all processes who may not have traditionally had access or been intentionally left out of that process, and resulting in policies that, again, often intentionally within the United States, divided neighborhoods, marginalized cultures, removed resources, et cetera. And so the undoing of that in how things move forward, as well as the recognition of what is in the past and finding ways of both acknowledging and repairing the harm that's been done so that we can all move forward. With that, we've got time for one question left, which I think is one of the most important questions, which is, what resources do you need to do your highest and best work? And I say that because artists need resources. Dance is a very expensive discipline to produce. It works with human bodies. It requires often particular spaces, column free, things like Marley that folks outside of the dance realm may not even know about, how often it can be, that there are technical requirements for dancers' bodies to be protected to the extent that they can be doing something that is incredibly physical. So to that point, I always take it out at the beginning and say, I trust that I can make an assumption that any funder who is listening, or philanthropist or otherwise who's listening, who can write large checks, should do so, because resources such as giving you the freedom to be able to make the work without concern about paying for the work is one that I think most artists can always benefit from more of. Welcome you to share more on the resource around actual money. And in addition, add anything else that you would about what other resources over the next 6 months, the next year, would allow you to take some of your big dream projects and make them real.
Oh my goodness. Like, I wasn't expecting that question at all. And so I'm almost like, oh, teary-eyed, because I'm thinking like, wow, like even dance space, there isn't a lot of dance spaces in Detroit that really hone in on what you just said, like what dancers need. Like, dancers need a dance floor. They need a floor that, that gives, so then you don't blow your knees out at 30, you know what I mean? And so definitely that space. And because like I have individuals coming to me all the time, like, when is classes, when are you going to start classes again? And it's just location, it's just that in itself. Like, even as I stated before, I did a conference in November, 3 weeks long. And, just being able to have the opportunity to bring programs like that to life. Like last year, my dance organization brought in, on our own, just from ticket sales and just spreading the word about our projects, and master classes that we had, was able to bring in, $20,000, $20,000, but we could have done so much more and been able to really push the envelope with, other opportunities, if we, had, if we had that support, like general operating dollars. I mean, I'm doing this for free, sometimes, like, even out of my pocket, and to bring teachers here, even though it's a class of 20, 30 individuals, like, that money has to come from someplace. I mean, and ultimately, like, I really want to be able to ground this work in research, the research that it takes to be able to go and document tradition and culture, and so I've been, trying to figure out, like, how does one that is not at a university be able to, have the opportunity to be able to research, I've even gone to the point where I applied for a Fulbright. And so I was given the alternate. So, you know, even though it's not what I really, really wanted, but I know that just being an alternate for this 2021-22 session allows me to say, you know what, like my research, like people are really wanting to know more about my research and what I'm trying to do. And so like, you know, just being to have, just having money to actually go out and do it. Like that's my dream, to be able to actually go out and do the research, and then being able to have a team with me and to make that possible. So wow, like I have so many things that I, you know, that I want to do. Is just money, money, money.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to put that out in the world for folks who are watching today, for folks who are watching in the future as well. Those who have the ability to connect the money, 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 so you can do exactly what it is, as well as the people who have the ability to connect with the space. So I think I may have paused there inadvertently through Zoom for a moment because things froze. So I'm just going to say that again. In addition to people who can connect with the money, money, money part, putting it out there in the world, the call for folks who have space to share so that you can be offering classes, offering conferences, providing a space for all dancers to be safe in the practice, providing a space for folks to come and experience as audience members as well what you have to offer, and also academic or other research institutions or possibilities to put you where you're looking to go as far as doing that research. That again, all of these benefit everyone. It's through your practice, but it's ultimately for the benefit of everyone in Detroit and everyone beyond. So thank you very much for sharing here today, and keep an eye on the chat. There are other questions that are coming up for you there as well, and we'll make sure that folks have your contact information as we wrap up. And I'm going to shift gears now just because we have time limitations, and so we're going to move next to Karilú. And so I want to give Karilú a moment to get prepped as we're going to shift gears here, and I invite you to share context for your video that we're about to see and set it up so that folks know any introductory information they should have before we dive right into it. Handing it off to you.
Hi, everyone. First, thanks for being here, supporting our work. My name is Karilú Alarcón Forshee. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a theater and music artist, interdisciplinary. I'm profoundly inspired by the Latin American diaspora, particularly Mexican ranchera music, Cuban trova, and La Nueva Canción, which means new song, which is a folk style in Latin America. It's a movement of music that began as a commitment to social justice. Just to mention that a lot of women have been part of this type of music in Latin America. I want to mention Violeta Parra from Chile, Amparo Ochoa in Mexico, and even though Mercedes Sosa from Argentina, even though she's not a composer, she took this music everywhere with her wonderful interpretations. So I am very, very inspired by this music and my theater practice. The video that you're about to see talks about the projects that I'm involved in right now, and I can't wait to know what you think about it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Karilú Alarcón Forshee. I was born in Juárez, Mexico, and I have been in Michigan for the last 11 years. I am an interdisciplinary artist and a teaching artist. As an interdisciplinary artist, I blend experimental theater and music to bring audiences closer to the visceral realities that my heart and my mind are drawn to. I find profound inspiration in my roots and the women I come from. It is the strength that I inherited from them that fuels my drive to create. I am also a member of the theater company A Host of People. Currently, we're working on a show called Fire in the Theater that will focus on the freedom of speech. As an independent artist, I am in the process of creating a piece called Peregrina, which represents the person who embarks on an extensive journey to a temple, a sacred place, as a commitment to faith, as a commitment to God. In this piece, I will explore the female perspective, women embarking on this extensive journey to that sacred place that's freedom and justice, not as a commitment to God, but as a commitment to oneself. In the piece, I will be using text from the Mexican Revolution. I will be singing music by composer Violeta Parra, and I will be telling the stories of women from Latin America that have been victims of femicides. In Mexico, 10 women are killed daily, and 97% of these femicides go unpunished. With this piece, I hope to put a focus on a reality that has become the norm. As I mentioned before, I am also a teaching artist. I find great joy working with kids of all ages. I have found a home in my students, and they inspire me every day. Now I would like to show you a video about a project that will include my students. It is my dream project, and it is called La Carpa Theater. I would like to mention a new addition to this project, production manager Mila Miller, and I would like to credit Mauricio Dominguez for making the video you are about to see. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoy.
My name is Karilú Alarcón Forshee. I'm a performing artist. Mucho gusto, Elton.
Mucho gusto. My name is Elton Monroy Duran. I am a visual artist and a muralist.
Elton and I were invited to work with UMS to direct a project that was inspired by the Chicano band Las Cafeteras. They hired me to do the theater aspect of the project, and they hired Elton to do the visual art. Elton guided the kids to paint this mural, and it was a mural that it was composed by different wooden boxes, and then you could take them apart, and they were not only props but instruments that we both guided kids into creating something that came from them.
We were working for another organization, so they hired us, but then we were thinking like maybe we can do this with more freedom and with more resources. We're putting together our own project, and we're going to share this project with the community actually.
I started working as a teaching artist 9 years ago. I started learning a lot about the experience of kids that are immigrants or that come from immigrants. And I noticed that there wasn't a lot of space for them to have a voice. And I started noticing the confusion they had regarding who they were, who they are. When you don't know about your own roots or where you come from, how can you embrace it?
We just don't know enough about our ethnicities, our cultures, and so involving that as part of a fun exercise is one of the best ways to learn.
Yo estoy trabajando con un grupo de jóvenes con el baile folclórico. Aquí cuando están todos juntos, están muy contentos, se hablan en inglés y en español. En las escuelas o fuera del estudio, es como que tienen vergüenza de hablar el español.
They try to belong so hard that they leave all of this behind because they think it makes them not as good or less than. I started to think, what can we do so this doesn't happen? How do we show these kids that what they bring with them is beautiful no matter where they come from? How can we facilitate an opportunity for them to grow and to embrace who they are?
My accent is passion, my accent is vida, my accent is me. My accent is wherever I go.
La Carpa Theater is a project that mixes theater and visual art. The project is going to involve children between the ages of 11 and 15 from the Southwest Detroit community. They will be writing a play that talks about where they come from, who they are, and the visual art aspect of it, the scenery will also be made by them.
It is based on this concept of La Carpa moving theater in Mexico. These type of theaters were moving from communities to communities or different locations. The idea is to replicate this concept here in Southwest Detroit community, to bring these performing pieces of art created here with children from this community into other communities around Detroit. In Southwest Detroit community, we have the need of long-lasting projects like this because the projects that we manage usually through non-profit organizations, they have like a very defined frame of time, and sometimes the children cannot explore more than that.
Exposing our children to the power of art and music and culture is one of the things that's fundamental to an international baccalaureate education and experience. And when our children get to be exposed to people who give and give back, they learn the lessons that they must do the same as they grow older.
En esta última vez cuando estábamos en Scarlett, muchos de los niños no eran latinos, pero sintieron una gran conexión con la música de mariachi y ellos expresaban que es una música que les generaba como alegría y se sintieron tan orgullosos y tan identificados que en alguna ocasión vinieron los papás a una junta y los traían para que vieran el mural y les decían, yo pinté esta parte de aquí. En realidad es una oportunidad para que los niños generen seguridad incluso en lo que hacen.
The impact on the children, I think, is going to be tremendous. Giving them something that they're just not being provided regularly to the schools.
Creating this way of communication to share and to receive information between communities is something very positive, and is going to be possible through La Carpa Theater.
Un proyecto como La Carpa nos da recuerdos a los papaces, a los abuelos, de lo que teníamos antes, y hasta nos comienza a dar más orgullo.
Canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegran, cielito lindo, los corazones.
We want you to help us make this dream come true. This is going to be something that benefits the children of Southwest Detroit. It's going to benefit the whole community.
It will have a very positive impact, being a tool that creates empathy among other communities with different cultural backgrounds. Through the Carpa Theater, we're going to be able to bring and educate other communities about our cultural background. We're planning to bring the theater to other communities, and for that we need, of course, some funding.
$1, $5. For every dollar you give us, we're gonna receive another dollar through the crowdfunding. So if you give us $5, it's actually $10.
We have been chosen by the Knight Foundation to receive some support, but in order to have access to that support, we need to match it. We need to raise the same amount of funding. So we're asking you to support this project and give us the opportunity to achieve our goal. Right?
Let's make it happen.
My name is Ray Lozano. Mucho gusto. Nice to meet you.
Gloria Rocha, nice to meet you. Mucho gusto.
My name is Elton Monroy Duran.
Karilú Alarcón Forshee.
Mucho gusto.
Nice to meet you.
Right, thank you again for sharing so generously and such a broad range of what you're working on and what you're looking towards coming next. I want to check in with you first and ask if you'll share a little bit more about the concept of belonging. That is something that felt like it was a thread through everything that was there. Just your own story and journey, and also what you're bringing forward with your work with youth as well as your own projects. So taking that idea of belonging any direction.
You were breaking a little bit, Christina, but I think that you're asking me about belonging, that concept through my work, correct? Yes, through all the projects. It's funny you asked that because that's what I thought when I was watching the video. I was watching the video and I was thinking about the struggle that I myself had my whole life, belonging, because I've had a very peculiar journey because I moved from place to place the whole time as a child, and now as an adult, I'm here in Michigan. And I particularly thought about it when I don't know if you saw the snippet where I say this spoken word piece about my accent. So then I go on, and I thought about my teachers, because Ajara was talking about her teachers, and I thought about my teachers, and my experience was so different. It was always pushing away who I was to become this American person. You know, it was like, you're so good. I love the work you're doing. My journals, I can show them to you. You're so good, but work on your accent, you know, but you know what? Your accent. And it was also, so you can be more these characters, you know, because there were no characters for me, right? They were like, nothing fit. I had to fit the characters. So if I connect a host of people, which is my artistic home right now, I found a place where I belong, and I can become these characters that we devise. You know, I can be this. There's a place for me. But then we go to my experience as a teaching artist, and then I see it again with them. You know, I see it when I go to the classroom, and I see the lack of this content, this lack of who they are. That's not there. So it's a struggle where they're trying to find themselves, and they're trying to embrace, they don't know what. And because I could identify with it, you know, I had the urge to do something. What could I do? Maybe I can do what I found worked for me, you know, maybe if they understand how powerful it is to use your own story, to use your roots, to use your culture, to embrace it, and to be proud of it, and use your struggle, use your pain to lead to progress, you know, to help others who are in the same situation. So yes, that's how I think that that the belonging part of it has had a great impact in how I go about my creating my artistry.
Makes sense. And while I am going to try to strengthen internet here, I'm going to hand it to Andrea so we don't lose any time, and she's going to keep going with the Q&A.
Thank you. That was really amazing. I loved seeing the way that you described your current project and the ways in which you are interacting with the community at large, especially children. There's actually a question that somebody submitted in the chat here, and they wanted to know if there's any projects coming up that you're working on with young adults, because there's some young adults who are interested in potentially getting involved.
Well, right now, like I said, I talked about this theatrical project that's about women in Latin America, and definitely I will need collaborators for that project, which would be very amazing young adults. And for La Carpa Theater, even though it's going to be a work with with children, you know, teenagers mostly, you know, 11 to 16. We are still looking for collaborators in the other areas of the project, not necessarily in the performing part.
Excellent. And we'll make sure to include your contact information so that folks know how to get a hold of you to learn more about how to potentially get involved. It's when you bring up collaborators, and I'm wondering, you know, it seems like you often work with collaborators, whether it's with, you know, a group of theater makers or others. Can you talk a little bit more about how collaboration kind of, what role it plays in your practice, and how maybe you find yourself as a solo practitioner, and in what capacity does that make a difference in your work?
Yes, I believe firmly in collaboration. I think it only makes projects richer, and that's why that was something very important for me when doing La Carpa. You know, because it's something that, yeah, I am already a teaching artist. I already go into the classrooms, right? But like, how can I felt like it would it would reach, more communities if there was more people involved, more voices being heard. And I often feel like one voice, it's just like made more beautiful once there's all these other voices behind it, whether it's a visual artist, whether it's parents from the children in the community, but it just like makes this, if we're all committed to this goal, right? And then in my theater practice, it's something very beautiful that I can be a part of as a member of a host of people, that we all come together and we work collaboratively, we create collaboratively. So I experience that, and I want to share that with the kids that I work with. I want them to see the benefits of working this way. And you mentioned solo practitioner. When I perform by myself, maybe I be the performer there, but I always rely on collaboration, not only with musicians who usually support me by playing instruments, but like I bring in friends, either when I'm writing the text, or during the research, but it can happen just like that, it can't, just one.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I know that for many, especially when it comes to performing, it often takes a team. And I think that it lends itself to the points you're talking about of really kind of looking to understand or embrace or celebrate your cultural background or your history, and how to communicate that with others and provide some space for others to do that, especially children. How does that in your work as an educator, it's very interesting and unique to me that you are, relying on performance or leaning very heavily into that practice as a form of cultural investigation and understanding. And, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about, how theater or performance really lends itself to understanding and education, why that speaks to you as the avenue to exploring that part of yourself.
I think is the greatest tool there is to tell your story, especially theater. And if we focus only on the kids, on white theater, first, there's a lack of literature, there's a lack of content that I've seen in the schools, with the kids that I work with. So for them to explore that there's there's these amazing artists that wrote these things that come from Latin America, that became these successful artists, or like that's very important to me that they are exposed to that. And also I learned through my work as a teaching artist and as a performer myself, how it is always easier to tell a story in this way, in this theatrical way. I've seen kids that were so shy, kids that didn't talk, how something changes when they have this costume on. Something changes when they're telling the story on a stage. And where did that come from? Well, it was just like this permission we give without knowing for people to be themselves, because they're there to do that. That happened in the classroom. Oh, this was the moment where I could be this character, and maybe I had a very frustrating day, and now I'm portraying this animal from a storybook or whatever, but and then you saw that come true, so I believe it's very powerful, especially with children.
Yeah, I love that you said permission to be themselves without knowing. I think that's really amazing, because there's this idea that when you're performing, you're really kind of embodying somebody else, but it sounds like what you're saying is that you really get to know yourself and to really know your authentic self through that kind of performing, through kind of shedding the guise of insecurities or other perceptions of people's judgments. And I find that to be very beautiful and critically important today, especially. I think that there's time for one more question, and I wanted to kind of circle back to the same question that Christina asked previously, but what resources do you need to carry out your work? What can really help nourish your practice? And is there like an ideal location or platform or place that you would love to perform, and how can we help support you?
I think that probably we are all artists. We're gonna say obviously the money and the grants. For example, for this project of La Carpa, I'm not a nonprofit, so to apply for things as an artist is really difficult, especially during the pandemic. That really put a shadow on our plans, because then now the money is directed to other things. There were already very few grants for artists. Most were for nonprofits, so definitely we need the support financially, for that project to materialize. And regarding me performing, I think that something that I'm always struggling with is networking and having access to spaces or events that facilitate or that showcase, performances like my performances, because they are different, it's experimental theater with music, and it's just not, it doesn't fit everywhere, so yeah, having more access to festivals or scenarios where I could perform and showcase and expose what I do, that I'm always needing that, and networking, I would say.
That's great feedback. I think that having opportunities for performance is something that, especially when it comes to experimental, is something that we're still kind of navigating, especially obviously with COVID, but also generally the space to kind of perform is something that we hear again and again is a need. Thank you very much for your presentation and for taking the time to speak with us. We will be sharing your contact information at the end of the program, and we're going to move on now just because of time. But it's been lovely speaking with you. And so for everybody here, we're going to take a 5-minute bio break, and then we will come back, and Mike and Debra will then present and be available for questions. And feel free to drop any questions into the chat too for anybody who has already presented, and they can respond to you there.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Apologies for the tech glitch before. Thank you, Andrea, for stepping in. If that happens again, Andrea will be back. I am very pleased now. Michael as our next presenter, and going to hand it right over to him to give us some context for the video.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Manson. I'm a dancer, choreographer. I specialize in the style called Detroit Jit. It's a full body dance, but it's mainly known for its footwork. It's been around since the 1970s. The reason I wanted to, I've been an all around dancer. I was a popper. Popping came from LA, right? I've learned how to house came from generally like New York, Chicago area. Locking came from LA, the Bay Area and all that. Hip hop originated from New York. So when I was going to these different places and I was seeing these different things, I'm like, I think it's very important for me to push. It's good for me to know these styles, but it's more important for me to push the culture that I grew up in. So I wanted to share share my passion with with the world, with New York. I've taught class at Broadway Dance Center. I've taught classes in Bolivia, South America. I've taught classes in Paris. So the reason I want to push the culture is because, everyone kind of knows the music. And what I mean by that, like, people come to Detroit for our DJs, for the sound, like the DJ Godfathers, the DJ Assaults. even if I was to throw a name out there like Jay Dilla, you know, Detroit culture is very influential because Jay Dilla have a whole street in Paris. You know, and when I was over there, they was letting me know more about my culture than I actually knew. I was like, you know, so with that being said, that's why it's very, very important for me to push Detroit culture. I didn't talk about this in the video, but I am currently putting together a show called Rhythm of the Feet. Rhythm of the Feet, it's going to be Detroit jit, tap, Lindy Hop, house, and Memphis juke. And and did I say tap? If I say tap, I'm just gonna make. But the whole point of that, you know, I think when we all started dancing in studios, we was taught that jazz was basically pointed toe, very like the foundation was from the studio. But the reason why I'm having a workshop, I want to show that these styles, the foundation of these styles all came from the street. If we look at the Nicholas Brothers, people think tap, that's jazz. There's a lot of jazzy moves in that, you know, but it's my job to inform that. So I just wanted to show how the styles they go hand in hand, and how, you know, sometimes you have to go back to go forward. So if you've seen any of my videos, I've been dancing to like jazz music, Hey Pancha, Black Violin, Favorite Things. I've been dancing to music like that so I can cross the style over to the theater, if that makes sense. So when I have this show and I have a gala and I bring out different choreographers, I know I'm gonna win Creative Capital. I ain't being cocky, I'm just saying I'm gonna win it. But anyways, when I bring these people out, we're gonna talk about that. And we're gonna talk about the Lindy Hop, how Lindy Hop and the Charleston is all linked to the style. And so that's me talking about the show. What you're going to see on this video is a different demonstrations of the choreography I put in my sample for Kresge, and then me showing things that I didn't put into my sample, like different elements of Detroit jit. I'm upset that I don't have footage from all my students, because, you know, I work for Living Arts. I got to give a big shout out to Living Arts because they pretty much showed me a lot, and I believe that if I didn't kind of meet up with Living Arts or, you know, do my homework, I wouldn't have been fully prepared for things in the future. So I want to thank Living Arts for that. But with that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. We're going to do a little talking. I do live in Southwest. I've been living in Southwest for maybe like 5 or 6 years. The guy Math I let talk in the video, he won a grant. So the video is kind of weird. It's kind of like off, but I was giving him the opportunity because he said, bro, I had to show, I got to send this to a grant because I had to buy this footage, the video and everything, and show them that I'm actually using the stuff that they gave me the money for. So I gave him the opportunity. So I'm sorry if it looks a little weird, but I'm sharing the wealth. And I hope y'all really appreciate what we are doing. And like mine's is going to be a lot of dancing. So thank you. Peace and love. Hi, I'm Mike Manson of House of Jit. I grew up in Inkster, Michigan. You know, I've been doing this style, Detroit Jit, since I was 13. Detroit Jit is a style that came out in the 1970s and it evolved in the 80s and 90s. We usually dance to like techno music. House of Jit we kind of break the rules. We dance to classic music, jazz, you know. So my job and House of Jiz's job is to make sure the culture stays alive. So yeah, right here, this is the guy Mav, my homie Mav. He allowed us to use this artsy studio. This studio does so much for the community. I'm gonna let him speak.
Cool. I'm Mav One. They're Southwest Detroit. This is Motor City Street Dance Academy. We're inside of. We're a hub for hip hop and street dance culture. We're all about empowering and validating whatever youth and anybody in our street dance community wants to come through and present like this right now. Giving the space, access to technology, access to studio inside the city of Detroit, you know, where a lot of that is hard to come by for a lot of the youth in the neighborhood. You know, and especially for street dancers, we make sure we're accessible as far as affordability. Again, access to technology, what we're using to be able to broadcast to y'all, the space, sound system. We rival everything that's like out there in, you know, Rochester Hills and Lake Orion studios. You know, we're a little bit smaller, but that doesn't mean we're not a powerhouse when it comes down to getting things done. But we've been active for 5 years. I'm sorry, 5 years this June. Started out just teaching after school programming. Enough people were interested in what we were teaching at the time, which is breakdancing. And it's just steady gathered so much momentum that we were able to open up a space, be funded through a few different other grants to be able to operate. We're growing, definitely. The growth has been exponential from 4 original students and just us teaching to being involved with other crews and serving up to 250 students a year, and working with people like House of Jit, you know, which is amazing, being able to partner with, you know, like-minded individuals, street dancers, representatives of the culture, and things like that. So, yeah.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. Yes. This man right here does so much for the community. Well, this first piece that we're about to perform is by Black Violin. But it's got a little twist to it. It's got like a techno. It gives you a techno feel. It's sped up, you know. And James and our idea behind that was to, you know, to complement the music. And so with that being said, it's time to rock out. I hope y'all enjoy this show. Peace. dance. So what will be demonstrated in the second part of the dance or the second part of the choreography is flagging, girl dancing. You're gonna see biscos. You're gonna see every element of the Detroit style jit because like I know a lot of styles are just about footwork. And like honestly, if the body don't match the feet, but jit is sloppy. So I just want to give you an example of that.
One, two, three, four.
All right, fingers crossed, internet is working all right. That was awesome. I think the energy many of us are welcoming at this moment in. Question for you is about dance for the camera or for video. I'm curious, it looks that you were engaging with the video, and I'm curious if that's new in this COVID time that you're having to present and think of new ways of working for dance in a video form, if that's a continuation of something you've already been doing for a long time.
Well, with the music, you know, as an artist, I like to challenge myself. So I think I understand music because I grew up in a jazzy household. I mean, you know, I grew up listening to like a lot of like people wouldn't like be able to judge me if they see me on the street, but I listen to John Mayer, The Fray, I listen to everything. My music is broad, so I don't let a certain genre box me in, because if I did that, I wouldn't be an artist, if that makes sense. And with camera, with using the camera and dancing. Okay, first off, I'm not gonna lie to you. I love it. I love math, but I would have preferred more clear because I'm such a perfectionist. But I like community. Well, with that being said, I've been doing this a long time. I've been dancing. I was dancing for the Pistons. We was recording, so I kind of understand the setup of it. Like if using the camera, making sure the angle's right, making sure we do a bunch of things, like we do it right. And if I was being honest, I'm just being honest. That was the videos that y'all seen was first take everything because we practiced so hard. That was first take. I didn't have to do nothing over. If somebody messed up, I'm like, I don't care. We just gonna do this. I want to get this crisp. So with that being said, that just comes with being a perfectionist. So yeah, I just practice to how I feel. I'm pretty sure all of us are artists, and we make it a point to, right now the world needs us. The world needs us to put things. People are looking forward to see us put out art. So with that being said, that's how. Did I answer it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm here mentioned also at the beginning, New York, Chicago, geography feels like a theme that's coming through today with everyone. And I'm curious if you would share a little bit more about how those influences Detroit and other cities continue today, or other cities that you're looking for and watching what's coming out. Like, it's still LA, New York, and Chicago that are a big influence as forms move forward? Or are there other locations, especially maybe internationally?
Well, what I'm gonna tell you personally, what influenced me, kind of made me cry, was the fact it did make me cry. Actually, I went to Bolivia, and as y'all know, if y'all don't know how Bolivia is very high, so the altitude is the altitude is crazy. So when I was there to teach, but I also was like in a super I'm like, oh my God, I can't breathe. I gotta wear oxygen. I didn't want to go. I had to teach students, right? I had to go and teach students, and it was a time. It was one particular place I didn't want to go because it took so long. So I ended up going to this place, and I met probably like 60 students, 60 or probably 80 students. And when they seen me, I went there ignorant. I walked in a place, it's all like, Hispanic people. And they whispering to each other. I'm like, oh, they racist. The first thing in my mind was like, oh my God, like, are they judging me? Listen, they all took my hand and was speaking Spanish and was rubbing my face, rubbing my tattoos. Oh, they showed me their dance. They said, we are you. They was talking about their skin complexion. You are not alone. That was the most. So with that being said, that showed me that communicating is 90% nonverbal, because we knew exactly what we were saying to each other through movement. And that was the best lesson that I could have learned. I didn't even learn it from LA or none of that. None of that influence. That right there took my mind to a whole different place. And then that's when I started coming out with different things like that. So
yeah, that is a beautiful story. And I know I hear from reading. So I was saying, I know I hear from musicians and dancers both the opportunity of collaborating, even with, and that it can oftentimes have connections that are stronger. Are speaking the language. Has that been true for you in other contexts?
That's been true for me because, like, Chris, have you noticed? I know. Did you see the Hey Pancha video, the mask? When I danced, it was like kind of like, you seen that? So my idea from that, although Rennie Harris was dancing the house and he was doing different things, because he's kind of like a mentor to me. That opened up the door for me. When I started understanding, when I got a chance to meet Terrence Belanger, And I seen how they can play the music, and I seen what the sounds and the drums do to me on the inside. It started creating a totally different wave, you know. So yes, the music and the musician and being on stage next to the people that create the art, that's magic within itself. That's magic within itself. You know, I understand like the people that you see old footage of people like Jew joints, and they all vibing together, and it's energy, and everybody throwing energy at each other. I get it, right? When you back in the day, people didn't have a lot of money, or if they had it, they didn't care. In society today, men are afraid to express themselves as dancers. But when you're in a place like that with other artists, you're free. It's just free. Like, it's just, you know what I'm saying? So that's a very magical moment. Yes.
So there's a question here about what you said in terms of the language barrier moving, and in what ways does movement communicate that spoken language often doesn't?
Because, okay, so all of us in our own way have been arrogant, right? So we had these movements, and we go to these different places, and we be like, yeah, you know, I choreographed this and I created this, and oh man. And then you see 200,000 miles or a whole country away, right? That they are doing the same thing you are doing. And they don't have no idea. They're not at any of your rehearsals. This is the first time they met you. So all of us, we like, yeah, I created this art like it hasn't been done before, but it's been done before. So with that being said, they're like, oh, you got this, I got this. And then instead of teaching, now you exchanging. It's almost like the trade world. Like when we was, you know, back in the day, you know, before we had cars and all that, you know, and before racial barriers, we was all trading with each other. We was all speaking the same language. We was all, you know, exchange. We would learn something from that country would learn something from us. We learn something from that people, them people learn something from us. And that's how we all harmonize as one. And I feel like that's why the world is lost and drunk, because we're not harmonizing as one.
I'm gonna unmute because it looks like maybe Christina is a little frozen, but that was amazing. That just like what you just said about kind of the ways in which we are able to kind of tap into the universal, or like the different experiences that are actually inherent to our humanity. I think we have time for like one more question. And you know, I want to ask the question too, like, what do you need? Like, what does your practice, like, what do you desire, the resources, the opportunities, so that you can kind of grow in your practice and kind of fulfill your vision?
Well, honestly, what do I need? I need to be healthy mentally. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of times we talk about, the first thing we bring up is cash. We bring up cash, right? And cash is, of course, is really beneficial for all of us, right? But how can we make this art that we can share with others if we're not mentally right? That we can have the cash and not be like, oh my God. Like, so with that being said, I need that's personally. Of course, I would love to have, instead of, you know, always having to apply for a grant, because I love this process, but why not find a job and get it going, these corporate, or not the corporate, but the foundations that, you know, that grants us the grant, and why not try to talk to them? Because I'm gonna tell you this, I'm from Inkster. I'm from probably one of the roughest places on that side, right? And from that side is from Wayne, all that, we the roughest, you know. No one explained this world to me. No one did. no one told me that you can live. When I told them I wanted to be a professional dancer, they told me that I couldn't do it and that I needed. So, to let the places like, I mean, the foundations like Kresge, like Knights, like Creative Capital, to let them know, like, a lot of people, and I'm not just gonna say colored people, I'm gonna say people in general don't have an idea that you can live. And so it's important for us. We have all this money. We're gonna, artists always find a way to make it because we hustlers at heart. We need to start just giving back and just having little conversations and telling people that, because them teachers is not always, them teachers is teaching them how to be ants. They're not teaching them how to think for themselves.
Yeah.
So that's all, the resources, just the same resources that someone in Farmington Hills have, sometimes, we don't have that in most cases. And of course I want more grants, but I not only want another grant, because I want another grant so my name could be attached and people can Google me 150 years from now and see that I've been doing something for the culture.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that's I think it's like critically important because we often talk about needing the resources of finances, but mental health and self-care and just supporting each other is so critical. In fact, maybe even more than the finances in many cases, in order to kind of survive and thrive. I'm going to move on now because we have Debra J. White-Hunt next, but thank you very much, Michael, for taking the time to talk to us. And there's a couple other questions that were dropped in the chat, so feel free to just jump in there and answer them via the chat box. And then I'm gonna hand it off to Debra to kind of explain what we're about to see in her video.
Unmute myself. Okay, am I unmuted now? Can you hear me? Okay. Well, I was just saying, welcome to everyone and thank you for being here. And it's great. I hate to be the last, but it's always fun being the last as long as we don't run out of time. But this is International Dance Day. I don't know if everyone knew that. So this is even more special because what better time could it be? Okay, so my 10-minute video, I talk a little bit about it in the video, so I won't really go into it now and take up more time. But I'm just here to do what I can to serve the community through what I love, which is dance. And I also would like to say to the other dance people, I was just talking to my husband, even though we've been closed at Detroit Windsor Dance Academy, for over a year now because of COVID, we do plan to reopen and we do have space sometimes. And we would like to, make that available, see what we can do because we've got to work together. We're in this together. Okay, so I feel rushed, but I'm going to relax and just let my videos talk and then maybe we'll have time at the end. Okay.
I'm still in the meeting, bro. I'm still in the meeting.
What did he say? Hello, everyone. My name is Debra White-Hunt. How are you guys doing out there? I pray all is well. I am honored to be a recipient of a Kresge Fellowship 2020, and I congratulate my cohorts on this dance performance salon. I am happy to record a video to share with you. I am a native Detroiter, born and raised in the great city of Detroit, which has been my home, no matter where I have traveled and lived for soon to be 7 decades. I have been called to a rich and successful life in the arts, which I love. It's rich because of the people I have encountered along the way. It's successful because we have had the opportunity to pour into over 15,000 lives of people of all ages, from all walks of life. Our youngest has been 2, our oldest has been 95. I am the artistic director of the Detroit Windsor Dance Academy, and really important, co-founder, along with my husband, Bruce Hunt, and we are now in our 37th plus
season of business. Before I taped this video, I thought, what would be a topic that would hold my interest for 10 minutes? I talked with a few friends in various generations to get their input. And along with my original ideas, my topic is you have what you need. I will speak of 3 components of dance with the desire to share my experiences for the inspiration and motivation with the community that we serve, you. I would love to have a conversation with you and answer any questions this may generate. First topic is business. The second component is teacher. And the third one is being an artist. So let's just get started. As far as the business is concerned, we are a nonprofit. We were created to serve our community. Detroit Windsor Dance Academy started from a passion. And here we are 37 plus years later and 15,000 plus students, and we are still here. Through our amazing community, funds were raised to cover our expenses during the pandemic year. One of the points I like to emphasize is we have had a wonderful experience with DWDA, but know there will be highs and lows in business, trials and tribulations, disappointments, which with the right attitude are really opportunities to grow. You got to put in the time, the work, and for me, faith reigns supreme. Because this is a passion, I didn't feel like it was work, but the time was certainly put in. Being a teacher. I was a teacher long before opening Detroit Windsor Dance Academy. I found joy interacting with students who have found dance to be a transformative tool or an art form in their lives. Not only has dance strengthened their confidence, their self-esteem and self-awareness, it has provided strength for the mind, for the body, and the spirit. Excuse me. Many dancers have traveled throughout many parts of the world with Detroit Windsor Dance Academy. Adult dancers who are in their wisdom years know the value and benefit of movement for a productive life and enroll in dance as they commit to a healthy lifestyle. Dance is their go-to for fun opportunities and social interactions as well. We are now in our 4th generation of dancers at Detroit Windsor Dance Academy. So many people who grew up at Detroit Windsor are now bringing their children because of the benefits that dance provided to them. And that's why we exist. For me, I believe I was born to dance. What were you born to do? You have what you need. As an artist, my third component, dance has provided an avenue for expression and creativity and the opportunity to use choreography to provide dances that communicate heart to heart. Dance can be a message for edification and inspiration, and that's what I feel is important right now. Dance can be also very motivating as well. I love when there is a marriage with music and movement. It is important to me at this point in my life to be able to do what I can to make a difference in this world. Dance has also provided the vehicle for me to earn a loving living. Yes, dance is very, very important. And again, something is important to you that you may not have gotten a lot of people to agree with, but that's okay. From the oak tree, let me restate that. From the acorn grows the mighty oak. That's one of our sayings at Detroit Windsor Dance Academy, because we believe that the seed that we were born with, or the acorn, has everything in it to make that oak tree. So whatever has been put in you is what you need. You just need to nurture that, like an acorn needs to be nurtured. The sunshine, the rain, the care, so that you can grow into all that God made you to be. So today, for our time with you, again, I'm Debra J. Hunt. I am the co-founder and artistic director at Detroit Windsor Dance Academy. Someone said I should mention our website. It is DetroitWindsorDance.org. That's Detroit, Detroit, Windsor, WINDSOR, dance.org. And we are located in Detroit. A lot of people think we're in Windsor, but no, we've always been in Detroit. We've moved many, many times as the city started to develop, but our heart was in the city and we wanted to stay here. So now we are in the new center area. And to be exact, we're at 3031 West Grand Boulevard. We're in Suite 260, and we're in the new Center 1 building. And we have not been open since March 14th of 2020. That was our last day, but our plan is to reopen as soon as it's safe. And we teach classes for ages 2. As I said, our oldest student was 95. That happened to be my dad. He was in the daddy-daughter class. God bless his soul. Let him rest in peace. And we teach generally in a regular year about 50 classes a week. And we have all dance forms. We have ballet, modern, jazz, contemporary, hip-hop, tap, liturgical, daddy-daughter, toddler time, mommy and me, daddy and me. We have acro dance, and I may be missing something. Did I say modern? But we, as I said, we exist to serve the community. And so if you have a style, we've taught a lot of ethnic dance forms, and we, African, we've had belly dance, and we will create a class if you have the group that wants to do it. And I should also say Zumba and yoga. We have a wonderful staff of young people, of mature people who are passionate about dance as well. So I just like to again say thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to any questions that you might have, because this story can just go on and on. I have so many things that I would love to share, but I thank you for this opportunity, and please stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Debra. I'm going to ask that you unmute. I think you're still muted so that we can make sure that we have a chance to talk. And I want to ask that everybody sticks around for another 5 minutes or so we're not rushed and we can really get into Debra's work a little bit more. I do see here that that someone commented that they are thanking you for teaching them. I'm presuming dance. There's no questions, but just acknowledging your work as an educator. The first question that really came up to me in watching your video is, how do you have time for all of this? As an educator and as your business and a teacher, as an artist, how are you able to manage and all of these facets of your practice?
That's a very good question. I don't know. It's just what I've done. And then one time, especially like say over the pandemic, it's like when you sit down and it's like, I have never, ever in my entire life sat down this long and it was this still. It's like, it's like, no, I can't do this. But, it's like, I just say it's because of my calling. You just find a way. I am married. I don't have biological children. I have a bonus daughter and 2 grandchildren, but they're not here. They're in another state with her husband. So it's like, my husband also is part of what Detroit Windsor Dance Academy means. And it's like this has been our life's dedication.
Yeah, that's very, I find that most people, or not most, but many people are often craving the kind of connection between their passion and their career. And it seems like you've found a really nice balance there.
Go on.
Well, I'm just kind of curious about when you knew that this is something that you wanted to do, or, especially because you are, a long-term Detroiter. It's very interesting to hear that this is something that you've been working on for so many years. And truly, there's another person who's sharing here, being taught by you in the 80s. And, I'm curious about how this kind of developed for you.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I am working on a book. Del Pryor, who is another Detroit artist, who is someone I look up to, she made me promise. And I think at the time she was 80 something. And she said, you must write a book, because if you don't write it, who would even know all this? So I've been working on that. And it's like, here again, I think it's just been my calling. I knew at the age of 10 that, well, I didn't know at the age of 10, but at the age of 10 is when I saw dance in my life as a real class for the first time. And I know we had to do a video for Kresge as well. So my videographer, Eden, she wanted to deal with that aspect of it. So, but when I was 10, I played softball. It's always been very active. And my dad, we were going to a softball game, and he told me I saw some dancers at Crump Recreation Center dancing. And he said, ever since then I knew. But when I went to Michigan State as an undergrad, I started off in medical technology, because my dream was to find the cure for every disease under the earth. And I felt you could do that in the rainforest. I've always loved nature. You can see my plants. And so, okay, so I'm going to go to school and, become, find all this out. And then, of course, along the way, I realized that that was going to change. But how it changed was I was just walking across campus one day, and something just literally just came over me, just spiritually. And that's when I actually knew that I wanted to dance. And it wasn't like it was something that people were jumping up up and down about, because my parents were always supportive, my mom and dad, and but no one really thought that was something someone should look to do, to be a dancer. But it was no doubt in my mind. So I just followed my heart. And that's what my entire message was today, was in your heart. Because, back in the 50s, when I was born in Detroit, the only thing that dancers were doing they were doing it in clubs, as we used to say, the hoochie coochie dancers. And that's not necessarily what my parents had in mind for me. But who knew, that many, many, many moons later, dance would be everywhere, every TV commercial, every TV show, advertisements here, there, and everywhere, in every school. Well, Detroit had a very rich dance history in our schools. So I did come up in the Detroit public schools, but you just have to, and that's my message. You got to follow your heart, follow your dream. Michael, I know what you're going through, because I've been through it, but you've got to stay the course, because you have something that no one else has. You have something very special. And my other dancer cohorts, I hope I'm saying that right, I just love listening to you guys, because you really have inspired me, to keep going and doing what we do, and the way that we were all brought together during this time. I mean, who would have thought, but we wouldn't have had this opportunity to interact, if it wasn't for COVID. We wouldn't have had this, I guess, this platform. So yeah, I hope I answered the question, because I feel like I've just been, kind of, what's the word?
Out there.
Yeah. Rambling. Okay.
We're here for. And you've brought up multi-generational the term multi-generational multiple times in this conversation, and I see someone in the chat said that you've really built a legacy here in Detroit. And you brought up multi-generational and just asking for advice about making a video you presented or sharing your dance education with people from multiple generations. And I'm just wondering, like, how does dance reveal commonalities between generations from, as you were saying, 2 or 3 years old, folks who are in their 90s, and so what are the commonalities there, and also, like, what are the differences? Are there different ways that different generations have reacted or responded to movement and dance in your experience?
Well, yes, every generation is different. Being a Detroit public retired school teacher, and being bumped around every time I could turn around, because they had funds had been cut or something. I realized later in life what a blessing this was, because I got to teach every single generation, even in community college where I taught. And I realized I just love children and I love people. And each group brings its own intrinsic beauty and value, to life. And so when you get into them, it's like, wow, and as teachers at Detroit Windsor Dance Academy, we had to bring forth a lot of the knowledge from my, education background, because each group has a certain things that will happen at each time in certain lives, like there's a time when you toilet train, there's a time when you talk, it's a time for everything. So you have to understand where is this child at this time in their life. But you also have to know that dance is something inherent in all of us. Going back to my here again, my research and training, dance as we know it started in Africa, and that's where life started. So dance is in us, and dance is part of nature. It relates to the drum. When you hear the drum, I can't be still. I don't think anyone else can either, because it's who we are. So that unlocks that one thing. I mean, there are many things, but one thing that we all can relate to. A lot of people say, I can't dance, I don't have any rhythm. I don't believe that. I believe anyone can dance and everyone can. So with the generations, each one brings something unique and special. And people ask me, well, what age, would you pick if you had to pick? Well, I always have to think about that, because it just depends on what I'm doing. But, having taught in middle school, elementary, high school, like I said, community college, everyone is different and unique. But when they come together, it's like part of our I'm sorry, I got distracted. When we come together, that's when we find out how much we are alike and how we can help each other. Detroit Windsor Dance Academy, we have a mentoring program of all different ages, and everyone helps each other in terms of developing who they are. For instance, the younger ones will talk to the ones closest to them in age, and so on and so on. And a lot of times we find out some of the problems that children are experiencing, because the younger ones will talk to ones that they can trust. But we have had the opportunity to dance all around the world, and people are people, and that's the beauty of life. And that's what hurts me so much, when we get into politics of things, because we have so much alike. And I think that's how God planned it. And it's like, everyone hasn't figured that out yet. And everyone has something special and unique to offer. So when it comes to dance, you just look at the child, you just look at the adult, the young, the teenager, to see what is it that God gave you that brought you to me, or that brought me to you, that we can grow and learn from.
That's beautiful. It really sounds like that's a theme that's being discussed amongst all the dancers tonight, is the fact that it's universal, and it's a way to kind of communicate and know one another, and it also seems like it's something that not only is universal in terms of geography, but also culturally, but also in terms of age, as we
absolutely humanity.
Well, thank you so much, Debra. I really appreciate it. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up because
Can I ask one question? Can I answer that question that you asked everybody else? Real quick, what do we need? We need funding. We need support. We need to be able to just do what we do without having to worry about anything else. And I tell you, when that happens, this world is going to be so different, and it will start right here in Detroit because you have the talent.
Absolutely. Thank you. We just dropped information of how to get a hold of everybody who spoke today. So of course, if you have any connections to the things that folks expressed they maybe needed or are required to thrive, please reach out to them. If you have further questions, I'm sure that they'd be happy to respond. And I really appreciate everybody coming to take the time to join us today for this very moving and compelling conversation. We are so appreciative that the Kresge Artist Fellows took their time to make these videos and to share more about their practice and the things that are meaningful to them with us. Every video that you see, or the video you saw today and the previous artist salons are all available on Kresge Arts Detroit's YouTube page, which I'm going to drop in the chat right now. And I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and I appreciate your time with us.
Peace.
Bye. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.